Welcome into another edition of New Track Record Podcast. Caleb Hatch, Justin Kinney with you from the WELT studios, and it's here. We finally have our first race to recap of the 2026 NTT IndyCar Series season, the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, and wouldn't you know, Alex Palou takes the season opening win for the second straight year. We'll see if he can keep that rolling this weekend at Phoenix, but all in all, crowds look great. The race was whatever. We'll get to a note about St. Pete in a bit.
St. Pete never really delivers bangers.
Not anymore.
The excitement is it's the season opener.
Yes.
Right? But if you put this race in the middle of the year, everybody would moan and groan about having to go to St. Pete because it doesn't deliver much drama.
Correct. Well, NASCAR man RR on Twitter pointed this out. The last time St. Pete had a true lead change for track position was 2021. Because remember,
at the front of the grid.
A true lead change. Granted, there was Marcus Ericsson getting past Pato Ward with the turbo plenum fire, right?
Yeah,
is that what it was? That was in what, 23?
Yeah.
So yes, technically you go back to 23, but in reality,
but not a
2021
true pass. And so it's not the best event on this schedule. It's far from it, but the excitement of getting the season started and the excitement of closing the book on the championship with Alex Palou winning. It was a hell of a run, but I mentioned this on Twitter and I mentioned it to you too. Preseason we hear all this about all the teams that they're going to take it to Alex Palou, blah blah blah, and he goes out and wins the first race by 13.5 seconds.
Here's the thing, and we'll get to our three takeaways, and obviously Alex Palou will be our first one. You know what? Let's just jump into it.
Sure, let's do it. I
think the big thing that we've learned, one, Alex Palou is so good, and Marshall Pruitt had a whole story on Racer.com, but I thought about it during the race. He is so much better than the entire field at tire management, and that's why he's winning all these races. It's not rocket science. Like, yes, you got to get strategy right, and you got to have pace and all that, but he's doing it because he manages the tires the best. And with all the added weight with the aero screen and now the hybrid, he has adapted the best out of any other driver in terms of managing the tires with all that extra weight added on the car.
And one thing
that's the singular difference.
And the one thing that he's been blessed with is he didn't have a lot of previous running pre-aero screen.
He didn't have any.
This vast amount of knowledge that he had to switch. That's always been the excuse for Alexander Rossi that I don't buy. But he didn't have this, okay, I got to completely switch from what I knew before to now. And so it's not an issue for him. So on the same team, you have the guy that figures out fuel mileage the best, and you have a dude that figures out tire life and tire wear the best. And that's why Chip Ganassi Racing is at the top of this series. But, more of the same from Alex Palou. And they may not say it in the paddock publicly, but you can almost hear the groan from pit lane after the race. And it's just like, oh, here we go. And we'll see if that changes in Phoenix this week.
The numbers are staggering. He now has 20 wins and 99 starts. He just wrapped up the largest margin of victory ever at St. Pete. And he's led the championship, as listener Lynn pointed out, 616 days in a row. Just astonishing.
It's just absolutely ridiculous at this point. And we'll see over the course of the next several races if indeed the rest of the paddock has raised its game to challenge him. But it wasn't very promising after the first race, that's for sure. We felt, okay, Scott McLaughlin on pole, here we go. And he couldn't close the deal. And while there were some great stories in the field that we'll get to, it's just tough to, right off the bat, talk about the excitement of this series when, at least through one race, it's more of the same and in dominant fashion.
And I have to update the stat. It's 620 days because that was as of March 1st. So this is now March 5th as we record Thursday evening here. So the number keeps going up. But I think, look, Palou doesn't focus on one lap pace, which he did have his first ever Firestone Fast 6 at St. Pete. which is
Yeah,
also
he had not
astonishing.
qualified well at St. Pete.
This was not a good qualifying track for Alex Palou. So I feel like we're running out of stuff to say, and I'm not willing to say the championship is over. Also, I'm not even willing to dive into championship talk.
We don't do
way
that
too
until
early
the
in
end
the
of
year.
after the 500.
So, and
It's a
there's
little around
so
here.
many races between now and the Indy 500 for once that, a lot could change. But we're running out of stuff to say. This guy is so good, and if not for some bad management advice, he'd probably be in Formula One right now.
And the problem is, and I don't know if it's a problem, but Alex Palou is so nice. Like, the only reason people don't like Alex Palou is because he wins all the time. And we see that across sport, right? Individual sport, team sport, and all that stuff. It'd be a lot easier if Alex Palou was a complete douche and it was easy to root against him, right?
He's not a villain.
Other than the fact that he has issues with contracts with teams, and a lot of that, when you read between the lines, is more the people that he had surrounded him with earlier in his career. There's nothing much to not like about this guy. He's always cordial. He's not arrogant. He doesn't come off arrogant. He just lets his driving do the talking. And other than the fact that he just wins all the time, it's very difficult to not like Alex Palou. It would be a lot easier if he was a true villain. But other than the fact, the only reason he's a villain, if you can call him that, is the fact that he's the best driver in this series. And at least to start the season, once again in 2026, it doesn't look close at this point.
He is the Jimmy Johnson for IndyCar.
At this point, when Jimmy Johnson was in his heyday, piling up championships and wins, and didn't matter what the rest of the paddock did. And hopefully that's not the case this year, but through one race, it sure looks like more of the same.
All right, so that's obviously our shared first one.
Sure.
I think we both were going to talk about that. So I'll go to my second, and I'm sure this is one that you also have in mind. Let's discuss Dale Coyne Racing. First time both cars in the Firestone Fast Six since 2022. I believe that was Detroit.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. And let's see if I can name the drivers. Gosh, Detroit, 2022,
I can't.
Dale Coyne Racing. Man, I don't know if I could do it. Grosjean would have been at Andretti, right, in 2022?
Yeah, wasn't Grosjean. I'm pulling it up here.
Palou and Ferrucci were long gone by then.
All right, so
who are the
one
drivers?
is currently on the grid.
Okay.
Had a new team, first race with a new team. He is at a power team. Power. Clue there at a power.
Palou?
No, David Malukas.
Oh, Malukas. Oh, duh.
Replaced Will Power.
Malukas.
And then Takuma Sato.
And Sato. Okay.
Were the two.
Yeah, I never would have gotten it.
Nah, well, anybody who can rattle off year by year Dale Coyne's lineup
I cannot.
is a genius. But it's been a minute for Dale Coyne. Let's just say.
And I think we undersold going into the season. They had Michael Cannon. The addition of Bill Pappas, which we talked about, like, hey, that's a good hire for Dale Coyne Racing as he, left IndyCar and then going back on the team side. So you have two really good names in terms of engineering and management for the team. Grosjean obviously has quick pace. It's all about consistency for him. And Hauger, because we didn't see him go up the ladder outside of lights, I also think I have undersold his talent and ability. I mean, this guy is a dynamo. And if not for Alex Palou, we'd be talking about Dennis Hauger after this race. And the fact that they both qualified in the Fast Six and the fact that they both finished in the top 10, Hauger was 10th, Grosjean was 8th. I mean, what a debut weekend for Dale Coyne Racing.
It was, and I think I look at Hauger in particular because Grosjean being away for a year and then coming back was impressive. Don't get me wrong, but the fact that Dennis Hauger qualifies third on the grid, and I think even bigger, really stayed out of trouble. I mean, you're a rookie starting third at a street course. Anything could happen, right? You get one brake zone wrong, you're going to take out a couple contenders, and you're going to make some enemies in the paddock early on, right?
Think how nervous the veterans around him probably were for that at the start.
But I think regardless of dropping down to 10th, which was still, Dennis Hauger impressed considerably, both with the drivers and I think prospective teams on where he could be, right? Because we know, right, that he's an Andretti guy, and performances like what we saw to start the year at St. Pete are going to, if they weren't accelerated for next year, are going to go a long way toward accelerating that. And I think it's going to make Andretti all the more comfortable if and when they do make a move to open a seat for Hauger. Is he's off to a phenomenal start. And the fact that he raced consistently up front in the top 5, top 10 for the majority of the day and didn't put a wheel wrong. And we saw experienced guys throughout the weekend put a wheel wrong.
Marcus Armstrong. I mean,
Will
little
Power.
aggressive. Will Power. Scott Dixon.
So, what he was able to do all weekend was nothing short of very, very impressive. I think Dennis, and I texted you during it when I was watching, Dennis Hauger is going to be a star in this series.
Yes.
He, in the next couple years, is really going to emerge as a race winner, and if everything goes right, a championship contender at some point. He's that good.
And it's so great that Dale Coyne Racing is essentially the champion feeder team for IndyCar. I mean, you look at all the names who've run for Dale Coyne Racing over the years. Paul Tracy, Alex Palou, David Malukas, as you mentioned, who, I mean, yeah, he's with a big team now. Yes, he's yet to win, but I think that could come as soon as this weekend. Obviously, Dennis Hauger. I mean, there's so many names of great drivers through the years, and I'm sure I'm forgetting some super obvious ones that have gone through. Coyne is essentially the feeder team to the big teams, and Hauger will probably be that next driver. Which
is great to see, because the last couple years, they maybe haven't necessarily been that. But 2024 really stands out to me as just the absolute cluster where they ran 8
drivers or whatever for one car.
Whatever it was. But Coyne is at its best when it has a veteran and a young hotshot rookie. We saw it when it was Bourdais and Ferrucci at one point was there with him. We saw it.
Sato and Malukas, as we mentioned.
Sato and Malukas, in 2022. I mean, that's where they're at their best, right? Is that one veteran, and I mean, even going back all the way when Justin Wilson was their veteran driver, right? And so that's when Coyne is at its best, and it seems like it's there this year. You had VK and Abel last year. Just VK isn't it. And it was obvious that he was on the grid purely because he had money, and I know that happens. But at this point, you look at the lineup this year and you say, okay, Romain Grosjean is an experienced veteran guy that's going to get you results, and then you have a hotshot rookie that really has more than enough qualifications to have been racing in IndyCar for the last couple years, let alone just this first year. So,
and maybe the other undersold aspect is just the age and maturity. These aren't young rookies in terms of IndyCar side. Like these guys have gotten experience, and it didn't work out for Mick Schumacher, not his fault, and Collette kind of had a rough day as well. Hauger just showing that experience. I mean, driving an IndyCar for him is a step up, but not as big of a step up as we think for these guys.
No, not at all. I mean, Hauger will turn 23 here in a couple weeks, so he has experience. He's old, but not old, if that makes sense, in motorsport years. So just a phenomenal start for Dale Coyne Racing, and in my opinion, Dennis Hauger in particular. I mean, this dude is on the fast track.
What's your number 2?
Now, my number 2 is let's talk about Team Penske, because I think people are so eager to say Penske's back, and I think there were mixed results through race 1. Scott McLaughlin was the guy all weekend, qualified on pole, finished second. That's what you expect, right? And then you have Joseph Newgarden that is last in his group, in the first group to go out in qualifying, starts 23rd, and only 2 drivers behind him, and he climbs all the way up to 7th. Great recovery, but then you look at qualifying, you're like, well, that's not ideal for Team Penske. And then you look at David Malukas, who I think had a mixed day, qualified, made the Fast Six, started 5th, and ended up finishing 13th. So,
and he had that tire issue, and for him, it was the fact that he battled back to 13th was impressive.
Correct.
But again, with Malukas, he's got one lap pace on road and street courses. Can he have consistency? That's the question mark.
Yeah, I think that's a thing. I mean, he was the one that locked it up in turn 1. It was his fault that he had a tire issue. So on lap 12, because he was the one that they looked at and said, well, that's going to be a flat spot. And apparently it wasn't bad enough to come in and ended up blowing. So it was on Malukas that happened. It wasn't just bad luck. So yeah, you look at the performance through the weekend and you say, okay, we had a 2nd, a 7th, and a 13th if you're Penske. So mixed results again. And we're not going to know for sure if Penske is back or not till later in the season, right? But kind of mixed result. You saw indications that they could be it, and maybe indications that struggles are still there. So a mixed bag overall after race 1 for Team Penske.
I'll be a lot more concerned if we're talking about a mixed bag after Phoenix.
Short oval. They should dominate,
yes,
right?
Short oval. I mean, to me, and we'll get to this later, we'll ask the question, Palou, Penske, or the field? We'll ask that a bit later on with our Phoenix preview. So that's your number 2.
Number 2.
Let's get
3?
to my number 3. And let's talk about Stingray Robb. That was just a brutal mistake on the opening lap. And I think there are layers to this because I don't know if you haven't seen or haven't noticed, there are some interesting sponsors on Rinus VK's car. Mm-hmm. One, Nuclear Energy, back. Remember the Simona Di Silvestro sponsor with Keith Wiggins, HVM, back in the day. Then moved over to KV for a bit. That back on the car, but more notably, the Arco and AMPM, which is going to be it's going to be the Arco car, which is a gas station chain on Rinus VK's car at Phoenix. They had some smaller decals on the car at St. Pete. Notable because those are Connor Daly's sponsors, at least last year that he brought into the series. Connor Daly named a development driver for Juncos Hollinger Racing, which I thought is interesting.
Okay.
Not sure what that means.
Now, basically what you're getting to is, do you think Connor Daly is in this seat at some point this season?
Yes. Yes, I do. And I guess the bigger question that I'll get to in a second, but between the sponsor shifting to the team, Connor Daly in a press release named the development driver, yes, we still expect him to be at Dry and Reinbold for the 500, but I think that is a specific cutoff for Juncos Hollinger and Stingray Robb. Like, kind of like with Devlin DeFrancesco's contract where he had to finish in the leader circle, to keep that seat or whatever with Ray Hall last year, and that didn't happen. A part of me wonders if there is some stipulation in the contract after X number of races, if Stingray Robb is outside the leader circle, that he is out of his seat. Whether that's after the Indy 500, whether that's after 9 races in, halfway through the season. But I will not be surprised at all if Connor Daly is running in that other Juncos car before the end of the season.
Money can only take you so far. And when the organization that employs you is getting money elsewhere, not affiliated with your family, which is what you're mentioning in terms of these sponsors, then it's easier to sever ties with that driver. And that's where I think we're heading with Juncos Hollinger Racing. Stingray Robb, he's only on this grid because he brings a fat check. That's the only reason. And he continues to prove that being the only reason with things like what he did at St. Pete on Sunday. I mean, he wasn't even close to making that turn. And he takes out Mick Schumacher he did take out Santino Ferrucci as well. And unfortunately, the audio wasn't fully working with the interview. I would have loved to hear that.
That would have been great.
Mick said all the right things, but...
And poor Mick, because they had to move his car out of the way. Like, his car was fine, but because of the situation, they had to lift his car up, so his car was retired. That's just kind of how the rules work.
Yeah.
Very unfortunate.
Well, it was kind of funny because I think it was Townsend that was talking about if they can get it back out, but as they were talking about it, one of the drone shots or helo shots actually showed Mick Schumacher's car behind the wall. It wasn't even close. They weren't taking it back. And then, as you mentioned, it was effectively unable to return anyway. Here's a side thing with Stingray Rob. We had one penalty on Sunday.
30 seconds.
A 30-second stop and hold, which is a big penalty. So as we get further into the season, was this, in your opinion, Caleb, an indication that they're going to be a little bit more stringent on drivers that make boneheaded moves like Stingray Rob? Or was this just maybe a one-time thing because of the severity? Maybe setting the tone for the season? Is it maybe because it's Stingray Rob we're going to punish him? What would you take out of that penalty? Because it was significant.
I would say it was as blatant as avoidable contact can be.
But we've seen that in the past, and it hasn't been penalized like this. So that's what I'm wondering. Is this, are we setting the tone now that unavoidable contact, you are going to be punished pretty bad?
I mean, I hope so.
I mean, I hope so too.
Because that's what this was.
You know, let's say a popular driver, a so-and-so, a Scott Dixon, for example, and Lynn is shaking his head, me using Scott Dixon as an example. Let's say Scott Dixon does the same thing. Is he getting the same penalty? And I don't know. I'm hoping for consistency that everybody's penalized like Stingray Rob was.
If the situation, I mean, that's like as blatant as we're going to see on an avoidable contact call. Like, it could not be more obvious. And we often don't have them that are that obvious.
True.
The other question that I was going to get to with Stingray Rob is you compare to Nolan Siegel at McLaren, who finished 20th, one spot ahead of Stingray Rob. The next question is, who gets replaced first, Nolan Siegel or Stingray Rob?
I think if there was a betting app that had that, it would be pretty even, I think, going back and forth, and it would change race to race. I think right now Stingray Rob's ahead. But, Nolan Siegel, again.
Because Stingray Rob is bringing a lot more funding to the team, he maybe has a little bit longer leash. And we know that Nolan Siegel's family is bringing some funding. I don't think it's as significant as what Stingray Rob is bringing to the table. But IndyCar is way too competitive anymore to have the quote-unquote ride buyer who just brings a huge check and rides around in the back of the pack. It just simply does not work anymore in this series.
Yeah, you know what? I may have mentioned this last week, but I can't remember. But I think the worst thing for Nolan Siegel's career in IndyCar was getting the ride with McLaren. Now, let me explain.
Yeah.
Because he's wholly not ready, or he was not ready for that seat as a Big Four challenger. And they said, oh, we're going to be patient, blah, blah, blah. But you can only be so patient for so long, right? I think his best would have been to get a full-time ride with a Coyne, who he raced for, a Juncos, who he raced for a play. He goes right to McLaren, and that's just throwing somebody in the deep end. And for somebody that didn't win Indy Next, didn't win Indy Pro 2000, and didn't win F2000, he doesn't have any ladder championships. For a guy that was thrown into the deep end with McLaren, I feel bad for the kid. I mean, hopefully, if he is eventually released by McLaren, which we think he will be, he will get another chance somewhere else. But gosh,
he was well on his way to ending to winning the Indy Lights title too when he moved over and took over for Canapino
that's
at
true.
Road America
that because
a couple
he was
years
HMD
ago.
in 2024. Yeah. And
so I mean, like, he made the jump, and
which you don't blame him for.
No,
right?
No,
you
of
have
course,
to do it.
Yeah, you have to do it.
But dang, I mean, if in the end he's spit out of IndyCar and he doesn't get another full-time ride and full-time chance. Again, you look at what could have been for Nolan Siegel if he had gone the natural progression, starting in IndyCar with a bottom feeder, a midfield team, working your way up and gaining the interest of one of the Big Four and then moving up. Instead, he was thrust into that 6 car halfway through 2024, and they said, hey, it's going to be tough, but next year you'll make strides. And he didn't really make strides, and then this year he starts off with a 20th and was a non-factor. And you hear Christian Rasmussen talk about, me and Pata were fast and we're up there. I mean, you're not even considering talking about Nolan Siegel at this point. It's just a dude that he was presented with a tremendous opportunity that he had to take, but in the end, it could have been disastrous for his career.
Or the wild card, as Siegel get booted, and then McLaren pulls away Arenas VK halfway through the season. I mean, VK, in my opinion, based on his performance, we can talk about this later on if this is one of your points, but I mean, what he's done with Coyne, and now, granted, only one race with Juncos. I mean, this is a guy, it feels like, has been knocking on the door for a big ride, didn't quite have the results in that contract year with Ed Carpenter Racing, goes to Coyne, delivers. Now it's just waiting for that next cycle. Could he be in line?
Yeah, potentially. I don't know how, necessarily if a guy with a full-time ride is going to move teams in the middle of the season. Can't remember the last time that would have happened. But, I don't know.
McLaren can make things happen that other teams
they very much can.
Or will not.
They very much can.
What's your third?
My third, I'm looking up and down. When you look at guys that have to have good seasons, so about Marcus Ericsson, and qualifies second, finishes just outside the top 5 in 6th, and for a guy that his goal this year is to make it difficult to take me out of the seat to put Dennis Hauger in, is essentially what his job is. Good start. Now, to be fair, last year finished 6th at St. Pete. 2 years ago from there, 2023, he won at St. Pete. That was the year he finished 6th in the championship with Ganassi.
Yeah, and then it's been downhill.
Downhill since. So he did start.
Was that his last IndyCar win?
It was.
Wow.
Last year, 6th at St. Pete, finished 20th in the standings. So the quick start doesn't necessarily mean everything, but it's better than a bad start. So for me, for Marcus Ericsson, he's going to be one to watch in terms of if he can impress and keep that seat. And I think through the season opener, he's done what he needed to do.
For sure. Obviously, Hauger more impressive in the sense that he's the rookie, but Ericsson, and that move was perfectly clean. I don't know why on the broadcast they were acting like it wasn't. I mean, you make one move, you have your one move. He made his one move, and he held off Marcus Armstrong.
Yeah, I was weird about that too because they kept going on about it, and he made the move. Now, it was wide, but it's a wide straightaway. So
yeah, it's an airport runway.
Yeah, so I don't know why it was talked about that he was, I don't know. I thought it was perfectly fair. I mean, it doesn't matter how dramatic a move you make as long as it's not reactionary, which it wasn't. So I'm with you.
I don't know. That to me seemed like a weird thing. Overall, I mean, crowd looked great, right? It seems to grow bigger and bigger every year. TV rating flat, essentially rounded up 1.4 million.
I'll take flat.
Peaked at 1.6, 25 peaked at 1.8. But to me, when there's no Super Bowl ad blitz, it's not the first year with the broadcaster, it's year 2. I mean, I was thrilled. This was, once again, unfortunately, not a very compelling race at the front. It was behind Alex Palou, but to get essentially the same rating, I think you have to be thrilled, and we don't have to wait 8 years for race 2 to come onto the schedule, and it's not going to be a thermal situation at least. So,
and that's
feel pretty good.
Yeah, that's the big thing because we saw the dramatic drop in the races after St. Pete. Now, whether that was because of the layoff, because it wasn't exciting and people tuned out, who knows? I mean, you barely got, 550,000 for Long Beach, which was just terrible, especially considering it's your second biggest race, or like what you like to say it is. So hopefully the momentum of 3 straight weekends and 4 of your first 5 races being in March and early April, hopefully that helps. Now, then you get to April and you have 1 race the entire month with Long Beach, okay? So there are still gaps, but that gap at the front of the season just hurts you so much in so many different ways, and we'll see, hopefully, it doesn't impact the viewership, the TV rating, as much as it did last year. I still think the goal is if you can get every race above $1 million, that's huge. But you have to average over $1 million for all races outside of the Indianapolis 500.
And that will be tough. I mean, this Saturday will be tough.
Saturdays
aren't a good day for TV races.
I wouldn't be surprised if Saturday's the lowest rating in the entire race.
I wouldn't either. I would not either.
I know certain people are excited about Phoenix. Everybody seems to get excited about Phoenix, and then nobody ever goes. It's one of those great questions for me that
I went once in, 2016 when they returned for that brief 3-year window, and it was not a good race, unfortunately.
And I fear, and you and I have kind of traded texts about that. I fear Phoenix is going to be not good for all the wrong reasons. I don't think anybody's going to be watching. I don't think anybody's going to be there. And I'm really worried about the product with NASCAR rubber on the track too. Hopefully we're wrong.
Yes.
But those three things, especially the latter, because the latter affects the former. And all these people that say, well, you got to be back at Phoenix, right? And then nobody shows up. Hopefully you get some people coming over that are camping out or whatever for the NASCAR race to tune. I don't expect much of a crowd, to be honest. And hopefully the racing is more entertaining than I expect it to be.
Other quick St. Pete notes. Nikita Johnson won the series formerly known as Indy Lights.
Very impressive
race. Good drive by him, getting the lead early, and hometown win for the hometown kids. So that's really cool.
Healthy field.
Yes.
In Lights. Really liked watching that race. I texted you this, and Ron Rzuski quoted talking about Indy Lights, referred to it as NXT, which I like much better than Next.
Yes.
I know it doesn't stand for anything. It's not an acronym. But
but the problem is there's NXT that's like a wrestling series.
True. Maybe he's a big wrestling guy. But,
I doubt it.
I liked it. It was interesting. So, but it was a very healthy field, biggest field in 17 years. Good race. I think there's a lot of talent. Max Garcia, in particular, Nikita Johnson showed out for sure. Max Taylor as well. So a lot of dudes to watch. The Polish kid that I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah.
Finished
Timek.
fourth, I think.
Kaharczyk or something.
Just huge. Saw some Polish flags in the stands. So no, it was a good first weekend for Indy Lights as well.
And with the IndyCar rating, as Adam Stern pointed out, NASCAR and IndyCar faced a 93% year-over-year increase from cable TV news channels due to the conflict in the Middle East and what's going on. So another factor, the fact that IndyCar was able to hang on to the audience, I think is pretty good.
I'm not smart enough to know this, but how much crossover is there from people that watch 24-hour news and watch motor racing?
I mean, up until recently, IndyCar's fan base was of the older variety.
True.
And that's shifting younger.
I don't know what the Venn diagram looks like between those two parties that have 24-hour news networks on and are interested in motorsports. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that Venn diagram is it looks like almost two concentric circles. I just think it's very tiny. But,
Here we are. All right, let's preview St. Pete before we move on, and it's the Duel in the Desert, as Fox is promoting it. And first, before we get into a race weekend preview, I have a fun trivia for you. This from NASCARman_RR on Twitter.
Oh, dear.
The only driver to win at Phoenix in IndyCar and what is now the NASCAR O'Reilly Series, formerly Xfinity, formerly Nationwide, formerly Grand National, Busch Series.
Okay.
Am I missing any of the name changes over the years?
I don't think so. I always still call it the Busch Series.
I will always call it Xfinity because I got used to that long enough.
Do you
want to guess?
Both. I'm trying to. Not currently in the field.
No.
I will say Robbie Gordon.
No. Good guess. Indy 500 winner. I'll give you a hint.
Indy 500 winner.
Mm-hmm. And this is modern. Like this is
okay. This is modern.
2000 to present era. Modern.
Oh, Sam Hornish.
Yes,
okay.
Sam Hornish Jr.
Nice.
There you go. Nice work.
Thank you.
That's our trivia question. So now we'll get into.
Did Robbie Gordon win at Phoenix? I'm
not sure. For in IndyCar, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up.
3 key stats for Phoenix, courtesy of Chad Smith, Chad 200. Last 7 races here have been won by Penske, Ganassi, and Andretti. Dixon, 1st, 5th, and 4th since the series returned in 2016. Finished runner-up in 2004, led 189 laps. Newgarden, the defending race winners, finished 6th, 9th, and 1st with 32 laps led. So
Bobby Gordon won in 1995.
there you go.
Huh.
There you go.
Shockingly sound smart there. Okay. As you mentioned, when IndyCar was at Phoenix 16, 17, 18, very much dominated by Penske, 2 of the 3 wins.
Yes.
They pick up where they left off.
Yes.
Okay, moving on.
Yes, no, I think they do. As we look at the schedule for the weekend, the Good Ranchers 250, the official name for this weekend, 3 Eastern on Fox on Saturday. Taking a look at the schedule for the weekend, and of course, let's see if I can actually.
It is a 7 a.m. local practice. Is that correct? Tomorrow morning, Friday morning,
8 a.m. I believe.
8 a.m. Okay, so it's 2 hours difference.
Yes, 2 hours difference, and then it will be 3 on Sunday because of the time change.
Oh, yeah.
They don't observe daylight saving time in Arizona. So yes, the schedule 8 a.m. Mountain Time on Friday. So we're recording this Thursday night for practice 1 on FS2, Sirius XM 218, IndyCar Radio. Check your affiliates for that. That would just be on IndyCar.com and on the app. Qualifying noon Mountain Time, so 2 Eastern, FS2 on Friday. Then they'll have Highline practice at 2:30 Mountain, 4:30 Eastern on FS2, and then final practice 3 Mountain, 5 Eastern, also on FS2. Then on Sunday. On Saturday, coverage starts at 1 Mountain Time, 3 Eastern, 1:20 Mountain Time, and 3:20 Eastern Time. Green flag, 250 laps around Phoenix Raceway. Looking forward to it. It's going to look weird with, the racetrack being, completely switched around. Mm-hmm. That's going to mess with my head. But all in all, happy to have an oval before the 500. Happy to be back at Phoenix. This feels like a 1-year experiment, and if it goes well for Fox, they will maybe have a traveling circus thing with this double. I don't think this means that Phoenix is locked in for next year if it sells well. And from everything I've seen, it's actually selling well ticket-wise. I haven't checked in a long time, but I think they could go somewhere. Could they go to Coda or somewhere else down the line? I think that's how I see this with Fox and that partnership.
I'd prefer to keep an oval. I would like this to work out and make it an annual thing.
No, I would like for there to be an oval before the 500 as well.
Yeah, so I'm perfectly fine for this being an annual thing if it goes well for all involved. I'm not that bothered by IndyCar sharing Saturday.
I am disappointed it's not the Saturday night race.
Yeah.
But
I understand why
I understand. Mm-hmm. They're not the headliner for the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm pretty much fine with it. So for me, I am looking forward to seeing how this goes. And I think it was a couple of weeks ago, you and I were trading texts. I like the oval before the 500. Potentially it's the wrong oval. Homestead would kind of that. But you know what? If this means that there's more people in the seats because you're partnering up with NASCAR and you make it work, I don't really have a problem with that.
For sure. That said, to me, it's a win if the crowd is decent. And if IndyCar puts on a good show, and I'd love for the TV rating to at least hit 1 million. It's a low bar for race 2 to beat Thermal, where you only have to get half of what St. Pete got.
Right.
You should easily be able to clear that, even on a Saturday afternoon where you're competing against 1 million college basketball games and, weather permitting, I think it might actually be decent. I know we might have some storms, but that said, just break 1 million. That's the goal.
I'm looking at the track map right now, and it doesn't look bad in terms of.
You got to remember, I mean, you have the O'Reilly series right after. So
correct. Now, how many people are going to show up midway through the IndyCar race?
Yeah. Well, I would hope that because your ticket includes both, I think. Yes, like you buy a Saturday ticket, wouldn't you want to go for both races?
Ideally, but I don't.
But then again, no, we saw that at IMS with IndyCar, racing as part of the NASCAR weekend, and people would, come at the end of the IndyCar race to watch the then Xfinity series. Correct. And I thought that was silly. It's like your ticket includes all of this. Just watch it.
NASCAR people, I mean, not all NASCAR people are partial to just NASCAR, but I think if you flipped it over and said, if an IndyCar was a headliner, how many IndyCar fans are showing up to watch a NASCAR?
Yeah. No, it's the same problem.
I would, but, who knows? I mean, it looks decent looking at the crowd. I don't know how much, let's just hope for the best. Let's just say hope for the best. The biggest thing I'm worried about is the show, obviously, because the biggest thing over the last several years talking about NASCAR and IndyCar partnering up for a weekend was different rubber, right? And so this is going to be different rubber and not just cup rubber, right? You're going to have truck rubber. And is there Xfinity series here?
Yeah, well, that's O'Reilly.
Oh, okay, yeah. Truck.
Craftsman Trucks. I don't know if there's truck series.
So I want to say there's no trucks this weekend, but it comes down to different rubber, and for me, it's that's always been the concern. Now all of a sudden, it's not a concern. So, or at least not one they're bringing up. So we will see. It doesn't look like there's trucks this weekend at Phoenix, but it'll be a lot of stock car rubber being put down in addition to open wheel rubber, and that usually doesn't mesh well.
Very true. That said, who's your pick to win? And we botched it. We should have just went with Palou last week. So,
well, that's the thing is like you could, but it ruins all opportunity. I'm going to say Pato O'Ward wins this weekend.
Okay. I got to take a Penske. I'm going to say David Malukas gets his first IndyCar win.
Okay.
I want to pick Newgarden, but that's like too obvious. So I'm going to go Malukas.
Well, I mean, too obvious is one of us has to pick Palou every week.
Yeah.
So
what if we just never picked Palou the whole season? Made that part of our
that's fine. We didn't last week, right? Neither of us picked Palou. Okay,
yeah, we didn't.
So we can't
because we're dumb.
Yeah, but I want to make it fair for the other person, right?
Yes.
Cheat code, as Marshall Pruitt referred to Alex Palou as. But okay, that's you're going with David Malukas. I will go Pato O'Ward to win at Phoenix.
We'll see if I remember to actually make my grid rival picks because I already forgot race one. Like I ran out of time.
He's out of
I'm like, oh yeah, I need to make my picks, and then I forgot, and it was too late. So
I didn't do much better. I'm in 74th.
I'm in 103rd out of, well, I would say 103rd.
You're tied for last.
However many there are, but yeah, it's not great. 122. So, I somehow had points actually.
Oh, maybe they got some pity points.
I guess not many, but I had points.
Well,
I'll take it. But in first, so we look at fantasy. We have Fassi Racing 78 in first.
Okay.
Team Cool Green in second. Ski Racing in third. And Robert Clutch and Chill in fourth. And then Devin in fifth. So that's a look at our top five through one race.
All right. And I figured out a way how to turn the notifications on if somebody comments in the fantasy league. So by all means, comment away in the comments as we make our way through the IndyCar season and see who can emerge with the fantasy champion.
For sure. All right. If you agree or disagree with our race picks, our takes on St. Pete, we'd love for you to interact with us. You can always find us on social media, on Twitter /X, also on Instagram. The handle is IndyCar Podcast. On Facebook, just search for New Track Record. You can email us your questions, comments, rants, concerns, newtrackrepodpodcast@gmail.com. And you can support us via Patreon, patreon.com/newtrackrecord. Thanks to Reed, Rob, and others for their support. And as always, download and listen on your favorite podcasting platform, whether that is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. Mailbag time, and we start with Rate the Race for St. Pete. How would you rate the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg?
I had it 6.5.
And I have it as a 6.
I felt like the first half, there was a lot of excitement. Mm-hmm. Once Alex Palou got in front, it was over.
It was over, yes.
To the point where Fox had to run Alex Palou at Mid-Ohio with his off to try to keep people engaged and say, anything can happen. And once Alex Palou was in front, it was over. And, but I thought the first half of the race was entertaining, had some incidents, had some drama, and it went away the second half once Palou got in front. I don't care what everybody else, but you keep an eye on the time sheets and how fast and how close McLaughlin and Lundgaard and Kirkwood for a while was at Palou. Palou is even if they caught him, they ain't passing him. So the race was over once Palou got in front.
For sure. Our listeners who responded on the Rate the Race thread, the average 6.53. So pretty much in line, closer to what you said than me. But I thought it was a fine race. It's not one you're going to remember years from now. But as always, starting the season is better than not having a race.
And I feel like St. Pete's always kind of graded on a curve because it's the first race. Long off season's over, the excitement of starting, blah, blah, blah. Like I mentioned at the start of the pod, if you put this race in at race 9, 10 of the season.
Oh, it'd be brutal.
Yes, absolutely. So, but St. Pete, they always come out. It's a great event to start the season. It's just traditionally doesn't deliver much in the excitement department.
No, it does not. Let's take a look at elsewhere on the mailbag. A lot of people with thoughts about the St. Pete rating and what could come first. We had this from Poet Shevchenko. That was without a Super Bowl ad blitz, as we mentioned. Great point. And then Sterling Wilson 8 said, I think Phoenix might be the most watched before the 500. I like your optimism, but my fear is it's the worst, the least watched before the 500.
And get anywhere close to 1 million, I think that's a success.
Yes. And Tyler Wong 65 pointed out that Long Beach will have a NASCAR lead-in, which that should really help that rating as well. I mean, we talked a lot about, Indy 500 and the America 250, Freedom 250 race, which the track map going to be revealed for that on Monday, according to Marshall Pruitt. And of course, Nashville having the World Cup finale lead-in, being, huge boosts, but let's not discount St. Pete also. Run_Mark_Run said, look at those average viewer numbers, and a gif of Stop the Count. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, stop it at 1.4 million for the average viewer.
This from Mini Triceratops. One advantage of Fox buying a stake into the series is that they can see or feel the benefits of not only their TV ratings, but the strong in-person attendance figures as well. I mean, all of this is a factor in terms of what Fox is doing because they have a stake now, as he mentioned. So that changes how they're promoting the series, what races they want. I mean, that's why we're in Phoenix. I think this is a Fox thing, right?
Oh,
they led the charge.
A Fox thing. That's why we're in D.C. It was definitely at least a Fox-propelled thing or assisted, significantly assisted. If IndyCar is still on NBC, they're not racing in D.C.
No.
For sure. So, like we've said countless times, if Fox wants this to succeed more than any television partner ever, in my opinion, for open wheel racing, IndyCar and kart. And so they are very much involved, for better, for worse. And for the majority of the time so far, it's been for the better.
No more lockstep in a football field every second. And
let's put the graphic on the front stretch of the
upside down fighter pilot,
the cliches.
Yes.
Are numerous.
Bill Hesse said, this was a good start to the season. I was curious because I haven't seen the same amount of ads and no Super Bowl ads either. Goes without saying there will be more viewers than last year, but it would be good to get an increase in 17 races. I mean, we'll see. Phoenix should beat Thermal. I mean, to me, at a minimum, just beat Thermal. That's the goal.
What was Thermal last year?
704,000.
Yeah, I just
got to beat that.
I would hope so.
This from S2000_Moose. Now that the Palou McLaren rift is settled, what are the odds Ganassi sells Palou to the Honda factory team, recoup his investment from the lawsuit? Fascinating. I don't think he will, but you wonder if that's a possibility. I mean, how does it work? Like, is Alex paying, here's my IOU to you, Chip?
Right.
Like, after every win.
Just garnished every
does he just forfeit his, race win bonus each time?
I very much
like, how does that work? Or is it essentially
just keep winning?
Keep winning, keep succeeding, and your contract, you can't go anywhere. And he has a longer-term contract, obviously, after all the McLaren stuff. So it's more like Chip saying, you got a home here as long as I want you here, but you can't leave.
To me, Chip Ganassi, like most...
He likes winning.
Chip likes winning. And I think, to me, for a guy that he's not a billionaire, but Chip's doing okay, right? To him, maybe just eating that cost is worth it to win races and win championships. It wouldn't surprise me if Chip told Alex Palou, hey, we're even. Just keep winning. Because Chip loves winners. And of the team owners who are all competitive in IndyCar, I feel like Chip is at the top. And to me, it's a price to pay to continue to win races and win championships.
Yeah, no, I think he's fine because Alex Palou's dominating. He's like, look, I'm getting the value despite paying that $12 million or whatever. Like, he's getting the value out of it because Palou keeps winning. And think about this: Palou winning the Indy 500 last year alone was like massive.
Sure.
You also guaranteed that it's going to be easier to sell sponsorships for Palou, and DHL's locked in long term. And
he's paying for himself based on his performance.
Yes, the exposure of winning races, winning championships, winning the Indy 500 is going to pay for itself.
Yeah,
over time.
Maybe Alex Palou has to pay some or all that money, but I really am of the opinion that that's just washed. He's like, hey, this is a favor for us. You just keep performing, doing what you're doing, and you don't owe us a dime.
And we got an email. This from Josh. IndyCar is finally back. I'm torn. I love it when bad things happen to Santino Ferrucci. But watching Stingray Robb make another silly mistake that ruins other drivers' races is infuriating. And in the end, he drove away while Santino and Mick were done for the day. Obviously, he's not the worst driver ever, but can you please complete this sentence? Stingray Robb is the worst IndyCar driver since blank.
Man.
I mean, Jacob Abel was really bad, but he only got one full season.
Yeah, I don't.
And that was as much or more with just Coyne was not in a good spot at that time.
Yeah, it is. Abel was not good.
That's tough.
I think the frustrating thing about Stingray Robb is he's just has so much money. And it's like, and I always tell you, like, how are the worst drivers getting the most money, right?
Because they're ultra rich and their parents like, oh yeah, sure, you can race cars. Like, it's just another level. Yeah,
it's just a rich hobby that for some people is they want to make it a way of life or career, and they got the money to try to, even then they have no talent. But I think that's just kind of where you're at with Stingray Robb. I don't think it's not like I don't like Stingray Robb for sure, but he doesn't belong on the grid.
I would say Devlin DeFrancesco only because he never scored a top 10.
Yeah, Devlin's fair, and he had, correct me if I'm wrong, fair amount of support, right?
Yeah, a lot, yes.
Dalton Kellett comes to mind.
Uh-huh.
Am I wrong to say Jimmy Johnson?
That's an interesting... Yeah, I'd have to run the numbers.
I mean, it's no knock on Jimmy Johnson because he's one of the greatest to ever do it in stock cars, but he wasn't good in IndyCar.
No, he was not.
So I think he's in my conversation of the worst. But in terms of frustrating drivers that had a lot of money behind them, who was the guy that was on pole for the first GP?
Oh,
wrecked.
Sebastian Saavedra.
He had a lot of support from
a lot of chances.
ARS Racing's
AFS.
Never did anything to warrant the amount of support he was getting. And that wasn't even through family. That was just like, I don't know what he had on AFS.
AFS guy seemed to really like Saavedra.
I don't know what he had.
And not J.R. Hildebrand, who also raced for that team in life.
That's true. So I would say in terms of the people that have come through this series with a lot of money and no results, and although Sebastian Saavedra did put it on pole for the first ever Indy GP, I would say that name comes to mind when I think about Stingray Robb. A bunch of support for not a lot of talent.
Jimmy Johnson, he had a 5th at Iowa and a 6th at Texas Motor Speedway. So I don't think you can put him in that category.
All right. Fair enough.
To me, it's Devlin DeFrancesco. I could buy Dalton Kellett as well in that aspect. And then, let's see, as he finished his email, also really enjoyed watching the trucks run on Saturday. That Dario guy is kind of good at driving stuff. Too bad his truck gave up on him. Jimmy Hinch was fun too. Great cross promotion with NASCAR. Fox understands how to promote events. Hope the Phoenix weekend is as successful. I did not catch trucks. Did you?
No, I really wanted to watch. I just ran out of time. I was already so far behind from catching up on IndyCar and Indy Lights stuff. I never got a chance to watch. I did look up the results. Jackson Lee did a good job and got punted there close to the end and finished way back. But how about Jimmy Hinch bringing it home 10th despite the early collision with Franchitti? But it seemed like it worked really well in terms of the cross promotion mini with IndyCar and trucks. So I really liked it, and who knows? Maybe could this Jimmy Hinch guy get a couple more rides in trucks? I mean, pretty impressive.
Yes, Spire Motorsports, which is under TWG, he's obviously got connections there,
right?
Having run a lot of years with Andretti and IndyCar,
and for a guy that had never driven a truck whatsoever, and practice was I wrong that practice was delayed or?
Yeah, it was delayed.
Didn't have the full practice.
No, I don't know if they had any, to be honest.
Yeah, I think maybe it got postponed because of the rain. But for what Hinchcliffe was able to do to go out there was really impressive.
All right, let's move on to news and notes, and we start with the Racer mailbag and pull up. I actually was smart and planned ahead and screenshotted.
Look at you.
The notes. So let me pull that up. So first off, Linus Lundqvist met with 2 teams at St. Pete and has a manufacturer interested in his services. I would assume that would be Honda.
I would presume as well.
And maybe the third Schenck car, obviously in partnership.
Thinking too.
So sounds good. Nolan Siegel's future will be known by the end of May. Yeah, I think if he is still struggling after the Indy 500, he's out.
Now, to be clear, that didn't say he would be out by the end of May, but maybe the decision is already made to move on from him after May. So,
do you really think they're going to spend a full season with him in the car if they're not happy with the results?
All depends on the financial situation and who they could potentially put in that seat.
MP said no clue on what the OEM charters are worth. Yeah, that's the big question we all have. And that's about it. So, someone apparently complained about the Ironman cam, which is like, come on.
It was too busy, I guess, they said in the mailbag, blah, blah, blah. I thought it was really darn cool.
Yeah, the new tech Fox has brought the last year plus has just really upgraded the TV viewing experience, and they got the technical gremlins out of the way last year. It seemed to run a lot smoother. Still waiting on qualifying to get the graphics, like, NBC had it nailed down with the to first and to the cut line.
Correct, yeah.
And Fox just had green or not, and so hopefully
and I feel changed. Like they're more and more talking about purple sectors and green sectors like Formula One.
IndyCar's not F1. We don't know sectors. We don't go by sectors.
True, but they mention them. But it's like they use them. So if they can see them in the booth, then why can we see them? Can we know if somebody's on a purple lap or a green lap?
We could on IndyCar timing and scoring, I believe.
Okay,
but that's it.
But I thought overall the hour warm up was great.
Yes,
it felt less rushed, and Jameis Winston stole the show.
Yes,
on Sunday.
And I saw Dennis Hauger was asked in an interview after the fact. I think this is like a media availability earlier this week. I think Bob Pockris It asked him in a chat, but Dennis Hauger did know that Jameis Winston was an NFL player, so it confirmed that.
He had no idea who the heck the guy
same.
that was giving the pep talk to his team was.
But that was awesome. That was a nice moment with Jameis, who is, become a motivational speaker.
His daughter was there, and she was talking about race cars. And
I thought it was his son.
Was it his son? I thought it was his daughter. Maybe.
Oh, I don't know.
Daughter.
But, either way, yes, it's cool to
he was phenomenal.
Have him there, and obviously he's got ties to Florida. Played for the Bucs for a long time. Played at Florida State.
Get him to Barber,
Yes,
not that far.
No. This from Adam Stern. It's a good story. IndyCar adding Northeast race on IndyCar's radar. IMS starts talking mixed use with local municipalities. So obviously we have DC this year. That's a one-off event with the Freedom 250. But with Fox on board, IndyCar trying to position any new race as a broader entertainment event. Stern says it's been exploring other potential new cities to race in, such as Cleveland and Denver. Before you get all excited, it's not Burke Lakefront Airport, as far as we know. It's always been downtown Cleveland. Also, Doug Bowles of the sanctioning body exploring the Northeast as it looks for major new shows. I mean, look, they have DC. They tried Boston. That did not work. They tried Baltimore. That worked briefly. It was a cool event, but
didn't make money.
It's so expensive.
Lost a lot of money
to run a street course. I mean, I went to one of those Baltimore years. It was fun, but it just didn't make the money. So they're looking. I mean, they didn't really. There are no specific tracks mentioned in this story.
No, and I kind of took it more that they were looking for a street course. I mean, talking to municipalities.
Yes.
I mean, you're talking to cities.
Yes,
basically.
And then IMS with the mixed use. I mean, they have 1,000 acres, and some of that they can add more entertainment. I mean, we've always talked about, do they add a hotel or an entertainment venue? This is a years away project, Doug Bowles said, but they're exploring options there. Makes sense. Now, Stern did say the series used to race at Pocono Raceway, but I mean, there's nothing in it that implies that Pocono would be coming back, which is a shame. IndyCar, unfortunately, killed that race right at the time it was starting to grow, but also you look at it, 2020 was COVID. That race, who knows if that were to happen. I mean, Richmond was on the schedule. I guess you can call that East Coast.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's Pocono is number one, and then I guess Richmond is two, just because IndyCar usually races well in short ovals, and then Watkins Glen is three. And in terms of permanent facilities, but I don't think they're looking at a permanent facility. I mean, we've seen Pittsburgh mentioned in the past, and obviously Chip Ganassi would have a big hand in that. Do they resurrect Boston somehow? I mean, I don't know.
Potentially. I mean, I kind of casually looked with the new Buffalo Bills stadium being built, that what's the infrastructure around that? It's not really conducive to a street course around what'll be Highmark Stadium. So I kind of looked at that as, hey, what about Buffalo? But it just doesn't really look good around it. I don't know. I think you and I would be on board with Pocono. And I understand why there's some trepidation there, but I also kind of don't understand the
that was pre-Aeroscreen.
Pre-Aeroscreen. I mean, the issue with RHR and Robert Wickens could have happened at any oval. The crowd was starting to turn up again, and gets you another oval. It gets you up in the Northeast. I mean, you could still do Pocono and a street race up there. I don't care, but I still wonder why they're not at Pocono. And everything we've heard is Pocono is open for them to be there, and it just won't. And I don't understand. It's different from Vegas. I get not wanting to go to Vegas. I don't get not wanting to go back to Pocono.
A few other Stern notes. I posted that IndyCar feels has a good chance of having full grandstands for the Arlington GP coming up in less than 10 days. Wow, that's hard to believe. Hospitality sales will be higher than any other race this year outside of the Indy 500. I mean, that's massive if that's true.
Huge.
Also, this from Stern. Doug Bowles on whether Kurt Signetti, the IU football coach, will be a dignitary for the 500. We're going to do everything we can. We'll definitely have components of that national championship team as part of our celebration. Exactly which ones we will be announcing in the next few weeks. So
I think what you should do,
have him drive the pace car.
Well,
or wave the green flag.
Or in terms of having the team, you got the Purdue marching band out there.
Yes.
You can have the IU football team run through the Purdue band.
I like it. And then finally, I'm only saying this because I love the quote. Adam Stern said, Doug Bowles has heard calls to do more national Indy 500 marketing, and Doug said, I'm getting in a car at sometimes 5 o'clock so I can show up at Fort Wayne at 7:30 and buy donuts for people. Those are the things that are just really hard to do outside of this market.
Hey.
The Indy 500 does not need more national marketing.
No.
If the people who are coming from outside the state of Indiana either A, go every year because of a family tie, or B, it's a bucket list thing.
There's not an attendance problem at the Indianapolis 500. There was one in as recently as a decade ago. But
since 2016, everything is trended up. Obviously, 17 was down from 16, but it was up from 15, and so on and so forth.
And then, throw the pandemic here, throws it for a loop. Doug Bowles, I think his everlasting impact when you look back when he retires is keeping the Indianapolis 500 relevant after the 100th. Because there was a lot of concern that a lot of people that had held on to their tickets for 30, 40, 50 years were just doing it to get to the 100th and all that stuff. I mean, if anything, the demand has grown since the Indianapolis 500 100th anniversary and the 100th anniversary years and whatever. So he's done a phenomenal job. It's up to Fox and the series, I get it, to raise the national profile. I thought they did a good job last year. Ratings were evident that worked, and hopefully they can take another step forward this year.
All right, and then final note before we get to tweets of the week and our random driver of the week and wrap it up. Marshall Pruitt with the story on how the 2026 Indy 500 field is shaping up. Current car count, 30 cars, 25 obviously full-time. And then you have Jack Harvey with Ryan Reinbold Racing. The second car expected to be Connor Daly. That makes it up to 27. Ed Carpenter, 28. Ryan Hunter-Reay with Arrow McLaren, 29. And then the 30th with Elio Castroneves and Meyer Shank. So then 31 would be Takuma Sato with Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan Racing. Pruitt said Sato expected to be back there. Getting to 32, expected to happen with Andretti Global. Colton Herta is one of the options. Unfortunately for Colton Herta, his F2 debut not going so well. He crashed in the first practice session, which happened
was that today?
Yeah, that's happening like now. He already crashed, so that was like a couple hours ago as we're recording. But Colton Herta could be the driver. Ron Rzuski said there's a high probability of that happening again in terms of fielding a fourth car. Nothing to formally announce. And then 33, Prima Racing, which they still have all their cars, nearly 30 staff members on site. They could play a role.
Hopefully their checks are still.
Yeah. I mean, obviously timing, and then you still have AJ Foyt and Hukos Hollinger. Told Racer they're willing to put a third car in the field to ensure a 33rd entry. Catherine Legg, Stephen Wilson, Devlin DeFrancesco, Jacob Abel, said to be the most active among those who are exploring their options. Obviously, if Prima has an entry, it would probably be Callum Ilott.
Yeah, just at this point, it doesn't look promising that we're going to get more than 33. We do. But it's not looking.
No, it's not promising. All right.
It's basically Prima to blame.
Yes. Anything that we missed?
I don't think so. It was a good weekend to kick the season off, and now we don't have to wait a month till race 2.
It's so great. In fact, we'll get to that in our tweets of the week. This from Murderhawk 500, who is back on the socials. Man, I can't wait till April. The next IndyCar race can't get here soon enough. Wait, what's that? Marshall Pruitt, that thing where the lawsuit was settled so now Alex can apply his full focus to driving. Tony DeZeno, Jack Harvey facilitating a Jameis Winston pep talk with a Dale Quinn Racing rookie on the eve of his first start is an all-time racing Mad Lib sentence.
Phenomenal.
Clint Boyer said, wait a minute, I didn't read the fine print. He is going to be in the fastest seat in sports at Phoenix this weekend.
Yes.
So remember reading the fine print? That was like the old ad, right? For the fastest seat in sports.
Yes.
Back in the day. And
I'm looking forward to that. I like Clint Boyer.
And then Pato Award, who said about this weekend, a week ago, It's great for the fans, but not for us in terms of sharing with NASCAR. But then after he saw the TV ratings, he said, I stand corrected. I'm so happy to be here with NASCAR this weekend. He tweeted that out. I thought that was hilarious. So that is the look of our tweets of the week. Time now for a random split era driver of the week.
Well, it's a short list with our random split era drivers of the week in terms of current jailed random split era drivers of the week. And in fact, this is a former winner at Phoenix in Indy Lights. In fact, we've had just 2 Indy Lights races at Phoenix since 2004. Kyle Kaiser won in 2016, and in 2005, it was John Erb who won in Indy Lights. John Erb is an American former race car owner, driver, and convicted child sex offender. John Erb made his IRL debut opening round of the 2000 season. The Delphi Indy 200 at Walt Disney World Speedway, qualified 26th, dropped out with handling problems, and finished 22nd that year. He was racing for Bird McCormick Motorsports. That was his only appearance that season in the IRL. He had portions of 4 other seasons in which he made appearances. 2001, a total of 6 races, 4 with TriStar Motorsports, 2 with the Poor Dumb Mechanics of PDM Racing. 2002, he raced 6 races with the Racing Professionals. He did not qualify for the 2002 Indianapolis 500. He also did not qualify for the 2006 Indianapolis 500 with Playa del Racing. He did, however, qualify for the 2007 Indianapolis 500 for Racing Professionals, finishing 32nd. So in 4 Indianapolis 500 attempts, he qualified twice, and his best finish was 27th. In Indy Lights, he made more starts, actually won in that Phoenix race in 2005. But overall, in his IRL career, 5 years, 4 different teams, 16 races, a single top 10. That top 10 came at Texas 2 in 2001. He was also, as I mentioned, a owner and actually sold his team's cars to the league's pool of chassis for former Champ Car teams. Remember this? When they had like the pool of chassis that teams could buy prior to unification in the Champ Car. You just got, hey, we got all these cars. We're just trying to sell them. But unfortunately, John Erb had a much more colorful post-racing career. On October 4th, 2013, my birthday, he was arrested by authorities in Collier County, Florida. He was charged with numerous counts of possession of child pornography. Erb's wife reportedly went to a police station after finding photos on his laptop. And in January 4th, 2016, he pleaded no contest to lewd and lascivious. I like the word lascivious.
What a word.
Lewd and lascivious molestation and 13 counts of child porn, blah, blah, blah. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison, lifetime probation. Under current Florida law, he is required to serve at least 85% of his prison sentence. So safe to say, John Erb, 55 years old, a native of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, is still in jail. But this week's random split era jailbird of the week is John Erb.
What a slip up.
A colorful figure, I guess you could say, post race career. Look, they're not all gems that are in race cars.
No, we saw a lot of this in the 80s, remember?
Yeah, absolutely did.
Yeah, and Rainey Lanier and the Whittington brothers and others.
Money laundering and extortion's one thing. Child pornography is quite the other. So John Erb, where he belongs, in jail. This week's random split era driver of the week.
Where he belongs, in jail. What a tag out. All right. For Justin Kinney, I am Caleb Hatch. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week to recap the Duel in the Desert, the Good Ranchers 250 at Phoenix Raceway, here on New Track Record Podcast.